Hi, my name is Amy Jett. I'm the Director of Social Media and Engagement for the Christian Broadcasting Network. It's my understanding from your class so far that you've been taking a look at different social media channels and how to leverage your own content on those channels. Today we're going to take a larger look at social media strategy and how to do a social promotion for content that you've already created. The example I'm going to be using today is Orphan's Promise. So there are 3 phases for any social promotion. 1 is pre-launch, 2 is launch, and 3 is post-launch. So phase 1, your pre-launch assessment. So what you have to determine during your pre-launch assessment is what's your objective. Is your objective, like I have here, to raise funds to support Orphan's Promise, TV weekly broadcast through a crowdfunding campaign? You have to determine what it is you want to accomplish. Your target. So you can have a target geography and a target audience. So in this case, I'm talking about a geography. So what we want to do is target people in our demographic audience in a certain region. The region is North America, okay? And that's where we want to raise the money. So then we move on to key promotion dates. So for Orphan's Promise, what we would do is a 4-week promotion, and 1 or 2 of those weeks could be pre-promotion. And then you have the core promotion within that. You don't have to do a pre-promotion, it just depends how much buzz you want to generate before something launches. So the 3 points to know about your promotion launch. The first one is promotion launch date. The second one is the date that the promotion ends. And the third one is the date that your reporting is due. And that kind of gives you a frame around how you're going to backfill the promotion with your desired outcome. So if we're trying to, in this example, raise money to support a broadcast for Orphan's Promise television, we have to talk about how we'll raise money via social media. So social media is not necessarily the best way to raise money. It's not the best place to sell things like toys or other things. It's really about brand building and awareness. And in this case, for the Orphan's Promise campaign, we're going to talk about crowdfunding. So there are lots of sites, you know, Classy, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Rocket Hub, and on. There are many, many crowdfunding sites. But what is crowdfunding? It's basically a way to leverage your social networks to raise money. And the way they typically work, especially with a site like GoFundMe, is truly by making the most of your personal relationships. So be very unusual for strangers to give to a GoFundMe because it's not designed to work that way. For example, the average amount of money that's raised per campaign on GoFundMe is about $1,100. So you have to be realistic in your goal setting for sure. Next is pre-launch continued. So now we're going to talk about your content strategy, and that really is all about what kind of content are you going to create and where is it going to live. You can also talk about frequency as part of that too. So point 1, organic content. This would be anything that's not paid. And then the opposite of organic is paid, right? So organic content would be image posts, spiritual memes, videos, any kind of content that you're not actually paying money to promote. You could do a combination of all 3. I mean, that's pretty common. You want to have a rich, robust social promotion. So the more varied the content, the better. An exception to that might be if you're doing a campaign that is designed around one type of content. So say like, you know, black and white portraiture or something, photography. That would be a very specialized campaign. But typically you want to mix it up and keep people bouncing around from your different platforms and looking at all your content. The second type of campaign is a paid campaign on Facebook. And basically what you're going to do there is set a budget and then talk about who you want to target. Who's your target audience? Are you looking for young moms? Are you looking for older women who are retired? You have to figure out who your audience is, who your message is going to appeal to the most, and then get them to give. And the secret with your content is that if you can get them to feel something, you can get them to give. And that's basically a golden rule across social if you're looking to generate sales and donations. Okay, so for the Facebook target audience, for the Orphans Promise, for raising money, we would be targeting North America. We would be targeting Christians, humanitarians. You could even do the people who have a heritage, of being from the Middle East, people who have an interest in the Middle East or international aid, and make a list of all of these groups and their interests. And then you basically take your budget, you decide, how many posts you're going to do or how many ads you're going to do, and then you put your budget behind it. So a good idea for a Facebook budget and how you would begin to determine what that is, because it's true that it's like anything, you can spend as much or as little as you want. The bare minimum for a Facebook budget would be $10 a day, and that might be something like a like campaign where you're paying to promote your Facebook page in the feed so that people will be exposed to it and click like. I'm sure you guys have all seen examples of that. So the budget for our hypothetical campaign is between $100 and $300 a day. And then you can, of course, reallocate depending on how the money is spent and how you get results. Boosted posts are basically organic posts that you would put on Facebook, and then you would promote them or boost them. And this goes back to Facebook's philosophy of paying to play. You have to have a budget and pay your way to promote to a wider audience. At the moment, Facebook is restricting viewership to just about 5% of what a Facebook page's total audience is. So you can see that, especially if you're a new organization trying to grow and get larger, you're going to have to pay your way in. And there's really no way around that these days. Okay. Next, phase 2 is launch. So during the launch component, you have 4 phases. You have phase 1, which is concepting, and that would be coming up with your creative idea. Are you going to do a black and white photography campaign? Are you going to do all spiritual posts that drive back to a GoFundMe page or a crowdfunding site? The second phase is research and planning, and this is usually 30 to 45 days, and what that is gathering materials, getting your information, doing your research to figure out things like who is my target audience and what should our key message be, and in a messaging hierarchy, how many communication points should we have? And the answer is no more than 2, but you'll see people who have 6, 7 communication points, and when you see that, you'll also usually see a kind of muddied, confusing messaging strategy. So what you want to do is pick your key message, a secondary message, and just repeat through all your different communications, all your channels. And then, of course, a call to action, so let's include that. Phase 3 is content creation. So that would be after you figured out who you want to target and what you're going to be doing, you want to figure out what kind of assets you will be creating. Are you going to take pictures of orphans in black and white? Are you going to write stories for each of the children? Or is that going to be your campaign? It's basically wide open. There is no right or wrong. It's just, it should be the right mix of what you feel is compelling material that will cause people to feel something, and then that's how you begin to get them to take an action, right? So speaking to their heart. And so content creation would be writing, and then any design work, and then of course tagging, because we're not going to really get into it today, but if you don't tag your posts as they go out, you'll never know how they perform. You can do the topical review on Facebook and you can see how many likes or shares or comments you got, which is a good gauge for engagement, but it doesn't give you the behind the scenes metrics of how many clicks, et cetera, how many movements to a donation page, et cetera. So tagging would be assigning code to the end of a link And then when that link is posted, it's captured by Omniture, which is like the back-end reporting system. And then that will give you insight into how many clicks, what the activity was before or after they clicked on the link. And it gives you insight into tracking, basically. Yeah. And then phase 4 is launch and execution and refinement. And that would be actually running the campaign. So that would be scheduling your content, so using a platform like Hootsuite. Adobe Social is another one, Sprinkler. There are so many different platforms that you can use. And that would be, getting all your content into the program so that it launches at the date and the time that you designate. And that's what we mean by scheduling your content. When your content is running and your campaign is launched, then you would be moderating your comments every day, and you should be, maybe even more than once a day, depending on what's happening and how much activity you're getting. But you want to be sure that you're providing a clean kind of community experience. So you want to look for people who are, posting third-party links or trying to raise money or, build their own business off of your page. And so a lot of these things are taken care of behind the scenes, like Facebook will automatically hide third-party links, and that's extremely helpful. But you want to also look for things like profanity. You can also put a profanity filter on your Facebook page so that you can capture people who are swearing or making threats and things like that. Really important to have a clean community experience. And then basically you would just optimize as you go. If something's performing well, say you're running a paid campaign, it's performing well, and you have some budget from another aspect of the campaign that's not going so well, you reallocate it to what is performing well. And that's what we call optimization. Yeah. And then phase 3, post-launch, is all about reporting. So this brings the idea of tagging full circle. And what you have here is what we use at CBN. It's just one of many. It's just one of many slides that show exactly what's happening on social. So you can start to see what we mean when we talk about KPIs. So those are key performance indicators. So here, a key performance indicator for Facebook would be followers, page unlikes, the number of posts, the post impressions, the post likes, comments, shares, video views if you're doing video longer than 3 seconds, video views where they have watched at least 95% of the video. And just so you know, on Facebook, a video that's viewed for more than 3 seconds counts as a view. If you're wondering, if somebody doesn't rest on it or activate it, then it doesn't count. But if they're on it for 3 seconds, it counts. Videos on Facebook should really never be more than 3 minutes. We like to keep them between 2 and 3 minutes because it's the nature of CBN's content is that we like to use those stories as ministry. So it's just like telling any kind of story. You have to structure it in a way that it's captivating and, again, makes people feel something. And so that video view time is between 2 and 3 minutes, optimally. Social media strategy, a really solid plan that addresses everything that you need to do would have 3 phases. You would have pre-launch, first phase. Second phase, you would have launch. And for a third phase, you would have post-launch. And then what we didn't talk about today, but you might get into in the future, is reporting. And then that goes back to the KPI slide that I shared. But that when you start your social strategy and you organize it in those 3 phases and then end it with reporting, you've done a well-rounded 360 campaign. And then, of course, you want to bring in all the social channels into your campaign that make sense. Some channels are good for one thing but not another. So really good to be familiar with the channels and do your homework. Your target audience is the group that you want your messages, your communications to reach. And then you communicate your message in a way that resonates with that group. Sometimes that can feel generic and sometimes it can feel specialized, which I realize is a little bit vague, but you know that when you start working with the content. This is, you would maybe use an expression if you're targeting a younger audience that you might not use when you're targeting an older audience. And then you just want to make sure you've hit your objective is really strong, your target audience is well defined, and your execution is flawless.